So, you know how I made that joke about Jeff Bezos? All right, Jeff Bezos, he runs Amazon, which is responsible for 50% of all online commerce. Now he has Whole Foods. So he controls a lot of the food distribution in this country. Also, what else does he control? Washington Post. This guy has a media outlet. This guy has a huge online retailer, an online juggernaut retailer. And now he owns a big food store, a big, a food conglomerate. And I always said, man, the only thing he has left to get into is water. Once he gets into water, he is going to go full circle in becoming emperor of the United States. That's the joke I used to make. Well, guess what, guys? It's not just a joke anymore. Boom! Jeff Bezos has plans to extract the moon's water. It's happening. He is a real-life James Bond villain. He really is. Like, all the shit he does, it is a plot from, like, a comic book series that a villain would do. Like that whole thing where he was looking for a new headquarters. Meanwhile, the whole time he knew it was going to be in New York and Washington, D.C., but he told all these cities that he was looking for a new location. So what did the cities do? They all put in these crazy bids, giving Amazon all these tax breaks, giving Amazon all these incentives to go there, giving Amazon all these plans that they had for years. So how did it end? Well, how it ended was Jeff Bezos had about $1 billion worth in city data that was his for free, that he can do whatever he wants with, and the whole time, none of those cities were actually being considered. They knew exactly where they were going to go the whole freaking time. It was a scam. It was a game. And pretty much every major city in the fucking country fell for it. That's something a comic book villain would do. Like, that's seriously the plot to a comic book. Kind of a boring villain plot, to be honest. I'm going to get a bunch of city data by saying I'm going to build a plant and then not actually build it. How would the superhero stop the villain in that scenario? Like, go there, like, you got to build in all these cities now, fuckface, because you lied. I don't know which superhero would be good at stopping that. Why didn't Superman just distribute food all around the world every day? You know what I mean? Like, why wasn't that just his gig? Like, he should have just, instead he was a reporter in, like, a small town. Like, that was, he's like, I'm Superman. I can't think of a better way to spend my days than having this double identity and being a reporter at a struggling daily newspaper. Why didn't he go around the world? He could have just flown around the world distributing food. Like, giving water to people that need. Like, he could have just done that. Like, and it would have taken him, 2-3 hours a day? And he could have been compensated very handsomely for it. I mean, honestly, if he's like, hey, I'm Superman, I can provide this service. I think that, the United States would have thrown some money his way. The UN would have thrown some money his way. I think pretty much all the countries of the world would have compensated him. Superman would have been, very, very well-to-do, as you should be. If you solve global poverty, you deserve to make a good living. I think that's fair. Does anyone think that's not fair? I think that's fair. So Superman totally could have done that, made a much better salary than being a reporter. I mean, what the hell, Clark? Why didn't he do that? Like, now I don't like Superman. I mean, I was indifferent anyway, but now I'm just like, what the fuck, Superman? Why didn't you just do that? Anyway, all right, so Superman screwed that up. So anyway, Jeff Bezos is now getting into water. Like we said, he's into food, he runs the media, he runs online commerce, or at least he has a huge lion's share in online commerce, more than any one entity should have. What's next? If he gets into water, the only thing next, he's going to have his own currency, Bezos bucks. Well, let's see what he's doing now. Because he wants to extract the moon's water. The Amazon CEO unveiled a sleek-looking lunar lander. Say that 5 times fast. A sleek-looking lunar lander. By the way, I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. That's how Get Your News On With Ron works. Sleek-looking lunar lander. And he hopes the White House takes notice. Between the shipping and handling, the web servers, the groceries, and the newspapers, Jeff Bezos has never stopped thinking about the moon. He was 5 years old when Americans first walked on the lunar surface, and he remembers the grainy black and white footage from that historic moment. He's just like a regular guy. He's just a regular guy. He remembers where he was when if you work hard, you can be just like Jeff Bezos. If you work real hard and are willing to screw over everybody in the meantime, you can be just like... They make it out like these are just normal people who just had... Like, to make it to a Jeff Bezos level, you have to be corrupt beyond comprehension. As he is. Like, that's just... But they make it, you just work hard. You can do this too. You too can make the decision to have an ambulance outside of your warehouse instead of providing proper air conditioning for your employees because it saves money. You too cannot pay living wages while being the richest person the face of the world has ever seen. You too can get an F rating from every environmental agency, yet still, pillage other neighborhoods and communities. You too can... All right, so let's see what he's doing here. In addition to leading Amazon, knowing the Washington Post, runs a space flight company called Blue Origin. Blue Origin has been working on something for the past 3 years, and on Thursday, Bezos unveiled it. A giant spacecraft designed to touch down gently on the lunar surface, plus a small rover with droopy camera eyes, like WALL-E. It's an incredible vehicle, Bezos said. All right, so listen to this. Bezos offered an argument made famous by Goldilocks. Other planets, he said, are too small, they're too far, they don't have enough gravity. Instead, human beings should build habitats in orbit around Earth, perpetually rotating to produce artificial gravity, a concept popularized in the 1970s by the American physicist Gerard O'Neill. These manufactured worlds, Bezos said, could each house 1 million people or more. Some habitats would be cities, others national parks. Some might even recreate famous places on Earth. All, according to the animations Bezos shared, would be idyllic with perfect weather all year round. People are going to want to live here, he said. And what happens to Earth in this interstellar-esque future? The planet would be zoned for residential and light industrial use. The heavy pollution-causing stuff would exist in one of those off-world habitats. Bezos doesn't plan to take care of this himself, though. Who is going to do this work? Not me, Bezos said. He pointed to a group of middle-aged school children. Middle school-aged children. Middle-school-aged children. Middle-aged school children. Good job, Ron. All right. Okay. Middle school-aged children near the front of the stage, all dressed in Blue Origin t-shirts. You guys are going to do this, and your children are going to do this. No pressure. Robotic missions to the moon have found evidence in the past decade that water exists on the moon in the form of ice. Pence, along with NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, have insisted that exploiting that precious resource would make long-term outposts on the moon possible. It's far easier than bringing along giant water coolers from Earth. Future lunar explorers, they say, could feed the water ice into life support systems or split it into hydrogen and oxygen and turn it into rocket fuel. Ultimately, we're going to be able to get hydrogen from that water on the moon and be able to refuel these vehicles on the surface of the moon, Bezos said. So, we're entertaining the idea of building new Earth-like civilizations constructed around the orbit, but we're not talking about doing something about the planet we have. We're not talking about doing something regarding... Why isn't Jeff Bezos getting in on a Green New Deal? Why isn't he doing something about the Earth we're currently on? We have 12 years to act on climate change. To slow things down, to manage things, to adapt, to seek different solutions. And his solution is, we're going to build these intergalactic, these spheres around the Earth. Most people, if a family member dies, they don't have the money to go to the funeral if that family member lives in a different part of the country than they do. But somehow, a bunch of people are going to be able to go to these new artificially created planets. They're just going to be able to move there. They're going to be able to move to these artificially created utopias where I'm sure nothing will go wrong. Where I'm sure there's not going to be some type of emergency that we hadn't planned for. that's going to bring down that faux civilization anyway. Hey, we're basically a walking virus, and we're behaving very catastrophically to the environment, and the Earth might shake us off like a bad fly, as George Carlin likes to say. What should we do about that? Let's build new societies up in space. See how that works out. Some of them we'll just reserve for pollution. Eventually, we'll pollute all of them, too. Jeff Bezos. Wow. That guy. That's something. And it's like we're talking about all this technology, and it's like we can't come up with some serious solutions for climate change. We can't come up with solutions on how to reduce our emissions, on how to break off our dependency on fossil fuels, on how to rebuild our infrastructure, on how to invest in solar and green new jobs and sustainable green jobs. We can't do any of that. We can talk about building these new artificially constructed planets for people to live on. We can talk about building a water station on the moon. All that is within our grasp, but coming up with a worldwide participatory policy that reinvents the wheel on how we get our energy and how we utilize our energy and doing it in a sustainable way, we can't do that. We can't build a rail line from San Francisco to San Diego. We can't have an extensive high-speed rail in the United States. We can't have a jobs guarantee. We can't pay living wages to our employees, Jeff Bezos. You can't properly ventilate a warehouse for your workers. You can't put your drivers on routes that are manageable for a human being. You can't go into a community without getting an F rating by environmental agencies and polluting that community. You can't do any of that. But you can create these utopian new planets for people to live on. And people are just going to be able to go there, right? They can't afford to go to their family member's funeral if their family member lives in a different city than they do. But they're going to be able to live on these utopian planets. Okay, Jeff Bezos. All right. So that's great. We're having more and more problems at home. Jeff Bezos is actually part of that problem. And meanwhile, with all the money and resources he has, he's playing Space Cadet. Cool. Again, it's like he's like a Superman in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's like, you have all these resources. Why don't you do something like, no, I think we're going to fantasize about building new planets. That's what I think. I think we're going to talk about building new planets. So, hey, why don't we talk about how we can become less of a virus? No, let's build more places for us to be a virus on. The problem isn't us being a virus. The problem is we need more places to be a virus. You have all this money and all these resources. Why don't you do... I think Jeff Bezos is the Clark Kent in this scenario. Jeff Bezos is the guy who, instead of doing something really positive with the resources he has, he's like, well, I'd rather just be a mild-mannered reporter. And actually, he's worse than Clark Kent because he's doing really terrible shit. Clark Kent was a fine reporter. He did a good job reporting stuff. Well, so there you go. We tied in water on the moon to climate change, to the planet, to Jeff Bezos being a predator, to Superman and Clark Kent.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your